Hello everybody and welcome to today's video. My name is Chris. Thanks for checking out my channel, Jersey Shore Pondscapes videos. Today we're going to be talking about the different types of fish that you can put in your pond. Okay, so let's start off with goldfish. All right, the most common kind of fish most people can buy for the pond. Goldfish are great. They're really pretty. They come in, more like an orangey red, right? They come in white and orange, maybe a little more white sometimes more black, sometimes black and orange, right? So any kind of combination of these colors. They can grow quite large. They do get it, 12, 14 inches. They have nice long tails. They're really pretty fish. They work perfectly in a water garden because they won't disrupt and eat any of your plants. They're really docile fish. They're easy to feed. They become really friendly. They come up to you to eat. And they're definitely the most common type of fish for the ponds. Now there's all kinds of goldfish. So there's a bunch of other fish that have different names, but they're all basically in the goldfish family, okay? So there's regular comets, okay, which is the most common normal kind of goldfish. And then there's things like fantails, okay? So it's basically a goldfish. They're a little chubbier, a little fatter, and they have big, like, fancy fan kind of tails. They're definitely, perfect in your pond, but they are a little more delicate, okay? They don't swim as fast. They are easier to pick off if you're a predator. But they're compatible with everything. They come in all different, colors and, again, the reds, the whites, the red and white, black and red or black, right? There's a fish called a black moor, which is also related. They kind of have these bulging eyes and all the fantails and stuff like that too, but they are a solid black. Maybe a little silver, like silver white on the belly, but black all around. Again, they can be delicate. And some of these fish that have these fantails that are, they tend to get a little beat up if you have more aggressive fish in the pond, okay? So just be aware of that. But typically, they all coexist just fine. Another type of fancy goldfish is called an oranda. Orandas are fish that look like they have a big, like their brains are popping out of their head. Okay, they have like a big crown on top of their head. Same thing, coexist in the pond just fine. Fantail, but again, a little more delicate. Okay, and there's just several other different types of goldfish. That can go into ponds. But those are the main ones you're going to see. Orandas, Ryukins, fantail goldfish, comets. And then there's another thing called a shabunkin. Shabunkin is basically the same goldfish family, but they are more like multicolored. Okay, they're more based on like a blue-gray color with like black spots, red speckles, red spots, okay? So they're more blue-gray with, red and black spots on them. They're really pretty. They too can grow, 12, 14 inches. They get pretty big. They get nice long tails on them as well. They're really nice to give extra color, a little different color into the pond. Really nice fish. So these three type of fish are really common for what I want to call a water garden, okay? To me, there's two types of ponds. A koi pond, which we'll get into in a minute, and then a water garden, okay? Koi, which we'll talk about next, get really large, okay? They are a carp. They are basically a bottom feeder, okay? In the wild, carp are bottom feeders, all right? They scavenge on the bottom, they dig in the mud, they look for worms, they look for bugs, crustaceans, whatever, okay? when we have a water garden and it's all full of plants, right? Lilies and water hyacinths and all kinds of marginal and bog plants and all this stuff. As koi get really big, they have a tendency to become more destructive. And some clients that I have koi, with plants, and they really don't bother them too much. Okay. Other clients I've had, the koi just rip the plants apart. Totally eat them, rip them apart. Lilies, they dig in the pots, they uproot the plants, there's mud comes out into the water, there's gravel on the bottom of the pond. They can get pretty destructive when they get big. So for that reason, I kind of look at two things. A water garden with goldfish, shabunkin, fantails, black moors, all that kind of stuff. Maybe a couple small koi is okay. Or a koi pond. That's basically a pond for displaying the koi, okay? Just the fish. Maybe a plant or two in certain instances and set up in a certain way, but mostly koi, right? So you have koi pond, you have water garden, right? For all your plants and flowers and some fish. Koi are awesome, okay? So I mean, they're been called like, living art, okay? They come in so many colors, so many different patterns, and each color basically has a name, okay? Like a red and white koi is called a kohaku, right? A pure golden one is an ogon, right? So there's all different colors. I'm not going to go on and on and on, but koi are sought after for not only what color they are, but the quality of the patterns on the fish. Okay, it's a whole nother story. I'm sure you can watch a million videos on that. We're not going to get into that. I just want to basically tell you the differences in the different fish and the type of ponds, right? So in a water garden, we're putting fish in that really don't grow much more than a foot or so, okay? A typical water garden may be anywhere from 2 to 3 feet deep, right? Because you have lilies and stuff you want to put in there, and you don't want it 6 feet deep because the lilies are going to have a harder time coming up, right? So 2 to 3 feet deep in at least in our area. Okay, we're in New Jersey. This is zone 7 here. North Jersey's maybe zone 6 and into Pennsylvania in the mountains, but we're basically zone 7. So 2 to 3 feet for a water garden is beautiful here, no problem. For a koi pond, since these koi are going to grow much bigger, okay, now you can buy koi 30 inches plus, okay? So a koi can grow, at least 3 feet long. Not all of them will get that big, but, at least, 2 to 3 feet long, let's say. So we are definitely recommended that koi go in a pond with a minimum of 3 feet deep. Some of my bigger koi ponds, I go 4 to 5 feet. I really haven't gone any deeper than that. It's not a bad thing. You certainly can go as deep as you like. Just keep in mind that the deeper you go, the more volume of water you're adding, and the better the filtration is going to have to be, right? The bigger the filtration. So that's another video. I'll be getting into that in some of my other videos, but I'm just giving you requirements for the fish, okay? So for a koi pond, minimum of 3 feet. For a water garden, 2 to 3 feet is fine, okay? If you want to go deeper, you absolutely can. So koi, they're a blast. I mean, they're beautiful. They can come up, they'll eat right out of your hands. I have clients that pet them. I have clients that name them, okay? They really become your pets, okay? I build a ton of ponds, right? I mean, obviously this is what I do. But I try to kind of stay out of putting fish in. It's just not my thing. I build the ponds, and then I find that the homeowners want to go out and buy their fish, right? They're really excited. They take the family out, the kids pick a fish, the wife picks a fish, the guy picks a fish. You know, and then, you know, they get all different colors, and they're really beautiful. If they're fed well, they grow really fast, okay? So just keep in mind, now for me, I put in all bottom drains, and they're gravity-fed filter systems. The bottom drains, if you put in small fish, they can get in through the bottom drains. So for me, to my clients, I try to tell them to get fish about 6 inches or bigger, okay? And then we don't have to worry about them all going in the bottom drain. But you know, I mean, you can buy whatever fish you like. If you're putting in a big pond, you might want a couple big ones. But for the most part, I don't see, you know, spending $500 for a fish this big when a fish half that size is, you know, $150. And in next year, it'll be that big, okay? So, you know, don't have to go crazy. They are expensive. But you know, I'll also tell you, you know, these fish are going to be your pets. So if you just see this fish and you just say, oh man, that thing is beautiful, I'd love to have it, hey, go for it. If you can do it, go for it. Put them in. They're really a joy to have. Okay, so, you know, koi, all right? Now, another type of fish that I'd like to talk briefly about is what's called a golden orf. Golden orfs are actually a member of the shad family, and they are similar to like trout, that they like colder, running, moving water, okay? We need a lot of oxygen in the water for them. And they're also a schooling fish. They, you know, love to be in groups. So if you want a golden orf, don't buy just one, okay? Buy like at least, you know, 3 or 4 of them, okay? And it's quite interesting to watch them because they will school. They're known to be aggressive, like jumping out of the water, attacking, you know, trying to catch mosquitoes or insects. They're very fast. They dart around the pond pretty quickly. So again, if you have a couple golden orfs in your pond, it's probably not such a good idea to mix too many of those fantail fish in there, okay? Because the golden orfs are definitely a fish that are going to be a lot more aggressive as far as like feeding, and koi, that some of these little delicate fantails and black moors and all that can get pretty beat up when it comes to feeding time, and there's food on the surface, and they go up and they're trying to grab a fish, you know, pellet, and you know, here comes this koi or golden orf that just poof, comes up and, you know, knocks them right out of the way. So just be aware of that. Golden orfs can get quite large as well. I have clients that have golden orfs that are at, you know, well over 12 inches, maybe 14, 16 inches. They're pretty fish. They are, you know, the picture up here I put up, they are, you know, basically just a golden color, golden yellow color. But they are a little different, right? They are different looking fish. They're kind of cool. I definitely would not tell you don't put that in your pond. You know, but again, some people are koi people, right? And in their ponds, they have only koi. Only koi. And they don't want any goldfish. They don't want any orfs. There's 2 types of koi, okay? There's a standard kind of koi, and then there's what's called butterfly koi. All right? Butterfly koi are basically a long-finned koi. They're beautiful. I have clients that have like big white ones in the pond, or, you know, they look like angels swimming around. They come all different colors. They just have these really long fins. Their pectoral fins, their tail fin is really nice and long. And yeah, they look like angels swimming around the pond. They're beautiful. But to a true koi enthusiast, it's not a purebred koi, so to speak, right? But they are absolutely beautiful. Definitely, you know, you can mix them in. So, lastly, I want to talk about catfish. Now, catfish are really common, right? They're sold for the ponds. And a lot of people get suckered into this stuff, and to me it seems like a big gimmick in a lot of these, pet shops and pond stores and stuff, selling catfish as, they're bottom feeders. They'll clean up the bottom of your pond. No, absolutely not. I would never recommend to anybody to put a catfish in their pond. All right, catfish, you can buy through the fish pond market, are basically what's called a channel cat. Okay, they are hardy. They can live through the winters. It's no problem. The problem with them is that they get big. Okay, I mean, they can grow over 3 feet long, and they are very voracious. They eat everything and anything they can get in their mouth. Okay, now that being said, the people say they're bottom feeders, right? That they clean up the bottom of your pond. Well, no. Okay, no fish is going to eat mud, dirt, sludge, right? Rotted leaves, right? No, they're not going to eat that. They're naturally scavengers. They dig like carp in the mud to look for worms or look for, bugs or whatever, wherever they come across, okay? They're not going to clean the bottom of your pond, all right? If you got mud and dirt and sediment and sludge and sand or whatever in the bottom of your pond and you put in a catfish, he's not going to clean it, okay? Now, the other thing is, when these catfish get really big, their heads are huge and their mouths are really big. And it's quite common that they will eat other fish. Okay? If they can put it in their mouth, they can eat it. All right? So, just a little story real quick. I had a client I rebuilt a pond for. The original pond they had, we took their fish out and put them in a big holding tank, while we built the new pond. And she had a big catfish, a big golden cat, okay? Probably close to 2 foot long. So it was in a holding tank with all the other fish, and when we got done building the new pond and I'm ready to put all the fish back from the holding tank into the new pond, I kind of teased her, but I was serious, and I said, well, now's the time to get rid of that catfish. And she's, what do you mean get rid of that catfish? I've had that fish for years. Why would I get rid of that catfish, right? No. And I'm saying, I'm just saying he's going to get really big and he's going to get really destructive in the pond, he's going to rip plants apart, he's going to knock pots over, and I'm not getting rid of that catfish. All right. So I put everything back in the pond, and a couple days later she called me up and she was all excited. She went to the local pond store and she bought, $300-400 worth of koi, a couple small fish, 4 or 5 inches, whatever they were. And she called me up the next day and says, I put some new fish in the pond and I can't find them. I don't see them anywhere. Maybe they went down the bottom drains and ended up in the filter. It's like, oh, maybe. So, all right. So I go over there and I took apart the filter tank and look, there's nothing in there. I flushed the pipes out. There's nothing. There's nothing in the bottom drains or in the pipes or in the filter tank. So where'd all my fish go? I said, the catfish probably ate them. You gotta be kidding me. He didn't eat them. There's no, on and on, right? Next morning she calls me up in this hysterical rage. She sees the catfish with a tail sticking out of his mouth. Okay, so what happened to all our fish? All right. Well, I went back there about a month later to do the maintenance on her filters, to clean her filters on the pond, and the catfish was gone. So I don't know what she did with it, and she probably gave it away to a friend or something, but the catfish is no longer in her pond. So just keep that in mind, okay? The other thing I just want to touch base with, as far as things to put in your pond, we also can buy snails or tadpoles. Okay. Snails, again, the little gimmick is, they eat algae on the walls of your pond. They'll keep the pond clean. Well, if you buy a dozen snails and you put them in a 1,000-gallon pond, I don't think they're going to clean that whole pond, right? If you buy a couple dozen snails and put them in a 5-gallon bucket, they will keep it clean. They will be all over the sides of that bucket and they will eat all the algae. Absolutely. But to put, 10, 12 snails into a 15 by 10 pond, they're not going to keep it clean. The other thing with snails is if you have koi, they will eat them. They'll suck them right out of the shells. All right, so you go out and you spend whatever, $20, $25 on some snails. You throw them in the pond, and then an hour or two later you come back to the pond and there's nothing but empty shells laying on the bottom. So keep that in mind. Tadpoles, same thing, right? They're sold. They pick on the algae on the sides of the ponds. They're not going to keep the pond clean, but at least with some of the tadpoles you could end up with a few frogs around your pond. Okay, which is kind of cool. So frogs were pretty cool to have. And years ago, I always had people asking me if we can buy turtles, because at the time, like the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles were really big, and all the kids wanted turtles in their pond. But there's some, I'm not sure about turtles. There's laws about them. I know they were like illegal, or you had to have a permit to buy them or sell them or whatever, because they carried salmonella, stuff like that. So I'm not sure about turtles. Sometimes turtles will come to your pond naturally, so we don't have to worry about all that. Even frogs too. You put in a pond, the frogs will find it. So, all right. So, I just wanted to give you a little brief rundown of fish and some things like, that you can put in your pond, what's suitable for what type of pond, and just to kind of give you some guidelines. And don't overstock your fish, okay? Don't go out and buy, 40 little fish, because 40 little fish might not look like a lot in your pond right now. But, once they all start growing, the pond's going to be overpopulated, right? They're going to outgrow the pond. So just make sure that the amount of fish you're buying is one, able to be sustained by your filter system, and two, it won't overgrow your pond in a couple years. A lot of times that happens, especially with goldfish. Okay, goldfish can multiply like weeds. So you can buy a dozen goldfish, and then in a couple years you've got 40, 50 of them in there. Okay, keep that all in mind. I would rather, especially for koi, I would rather see a pond with, say, 10 nice big beautiful fish in it than 50 little things swimming around all over. Because eventually, if you're overstocked, overpopulated, Mother Nature will take its course, and you'll probably end up with diseases and fish dying and God knows what. So don't overstock your pond. Be smart with that, and enjoy your fish. Right, hand feed them, and check out my video on feeding your pond fish. And I hope that helps you out a little bit. Please hit the like button if you enjoyed the video, and subscribe to my channel if you want to see more videos. I have a ton of videos coming out and yet to come. So please subscribe. It helps me out a lot, and it keeps me able to produce more. And check out my website, pondscapesandmore.com, where you can see a lot of different pictures and descriptions of ponds I've built in the past 25 years. So thanks again. Have a great day.